Hello guys, DJParson here, and I'm back with the next video of the updated tier list. Today we're going to take a look at age number 2 and how the leaders and wonders have changed, in my opinion, a little bit. First, thank you very much for your feedback on the latest video. It was really interesting to hear your guys' thoughts on the ranking that I made. Of course, there's always going to be a little bit of a disagreement, and that is very healthy. So yeah, thank you also for your support by subscribing and liking the videos, and of course those who support me on Patreon, thank you guys as well quite a lot. And if you guys are interested in also supporting me on Patreon, I'll leave a link in the description. But now let's get into the tier list. So here we have the tier list that I made before. We're gonna take a quick look at how the standings were before. We have Nobel on top. So that is the S tier, of course, the highest rank. Then we have Napoleon and Catherine with the military actions on A, and Bach as well. So I did see the strength of Bach here, but we're gonna see quite a lot of changes, I would think. Then in B tier we have Darwin and Newton, the science leaders, so to speak. In C, Cook, Robespierre and Watt. And in D tier we have Gaudi, Shakespeare and Maria Theresa. I think some of these might change drastically because the meta has changed, and I think also when I made these I just wasn't considering some of them as strong as they are really. As far as the wonders go, we can see that the producing or that the infrastructure wonders are all on top. Ocean liners, sewers and railroad each give population or rocks, they are on top. And then we have the culture wonders, the Kremlin and the Harvard College. I think some of those might change as well. So let's get going. In the S tier, I can't justify Nobel anymore. Nobel was really good for my playstyle in the beginning. When you go low science, you maybe never upgrade more than 2 science production. He can double your science production and give you strength. But that has changed a little bit with printing presses being more prominent, the science wonders being really good, and in general going for scientific methods quite a lot in H2 or even journalisms, and you get your science from there. So S tier is definitely too high for Nobel. I think he's just very solid now. In strength games he's very good, and he can be exactly the thing that you want, but he also has a limit of how much he can do. So S tier is definitely too high. I would maybe put him into A or even B tier. I think I'll put him into B tier just because when you want to go for Nobel, you want to go for the science, and then that means most of the time that you don't have that much science, and then you can't get the 4 culture, you don't get your civil action back. That can hurt you quite a lot. So for me, he is A or B tier. I'll put him in B for now. Then into S tier, someone has to go. I think that someone has to be Bach. Bach can just single-handedly turn around the game for you. He can be so hard to play against because he's so efficient in going for culture, and then you can focus the rest of your resources on the strength. So I think he's in S tier definitely. I mean, maybe we will also put another leaders into S tier, but let's go through them from the top to the bottom. Napoleon has to go lower as well. I don't think he deserves A tier anymore. I don't really go from that much. There are games where it's full on military, but those have become less and less prominent. If you want to go for that, that is a playstyle you can definitely still go for, and maybe it's even successful against some of the high culture plays that we see. But you don't see Napoleon that much anymore, so I will put him into... Yeah, I think B tier is fine because he has a lot of upside potential with this big strength boost. So if you go for him, he can be quite strong, but it just doesn't belong into A tier. I think same is true for Catherine. We probably have to put some from the B tier into A tier then, but I don't think Catherine is that strong anymore. The culture is nice. But if you go for her for the culture, there's just leaders that give you so much more in H2, like Bach, like Shakespeare, Gaudi, even Darwin. So I think she doesn't belong into A tier anymore either. So I think that just comes down to, the strength play is not being as prominent anymore. That's why Nobel, Napoleon and Catherine go into B tier. They are still playable, they are still very solid, but they're not as strong as I thought they would be, or as I felt they were. Into A tier, I think I will put Darwin, though. Darwin has impressed me more and more lately. Especially if you go printing presses and find a happy face solution, he can produce you quite a lot of culture, like 3 or 4 culture production from him, plus all of the civil actions that you save. So I'm really impressed by him. And then, yeah, I'm not sure about Newton. Newton is high science leaders. I don't play with that often. Like going for the scientific methods with Newton. The problem is, yeah, you have a lot of civil actions, then you have a lot of science, but your opponents either go for military or for culture, and yeah, he's okay if you have the rest of the conditions already fulfilled and you just need civil actions or you just need more science. So yeah, it definitely has a lot of potential. But since I can't put every leader into B tier, which is becoming harder and harder as we go in the ages, every leader that we see here, always remember that, guys, every leader here has his moments. But I don't play with Newton. I think a lot of you will disagree with me putting Newton into the C tier, because he has good potential. He can be very solid, but I just feel like he's not giving you as much as some of the other leaders. So yeah, there's that. In C tier, I don't think there's that much to mess around with. I think I will put some of these leaders lower, though, because maybe we should start in D tier now. Some of these leaders belong a lot higher. Shakespeare has to be A tier. I think he doesn't quite reach the level of Bach because he needs more setup. His potential is slightly higher, I would say, but not that much more than what Bach can give you. For a lot more conditions, you need a lot of population, and you need the printing presses and operas. So I would put Shakespeare into A tier and not higher. Gaudi is pretty good as well. Especially if you get a free temple, you can go printing press, and then everything else that you want to research is really, really cheap, and you can easily produce your 3 or 4 culture, and you save just so much science. I think it's a little bit worse than Shakespeare and Darwin, so I would put him into B tier. Because he can be very solid, but not as crazy the potential as Shakespeare, and not as versatile as I don't know. I could also put him into A tier. He's maybe comparable to Darwin, but I just think Darwin, with the extra civil actions that you save, he's just a little bit stronger. Then Maria Theresa is also really interesting. If you have the correct setup, if you have a lot of population, she is a beast. She can, especially because these are for 2 players, where she can quite often just give you 3 extra rocks if you're behind. For building military, that is quite a lot. That if she really gives you 3 rocks a turn, that is insane. I've had some games where that is just incredible. And even if you only get 1 rock per turn and then maybe 1 culture and 1 science, that is good. That is a good production. You can save up some food and then elect Maria, and boom, boom, boom. You have a lot of science, a lot of culture right off the bat from her. So I think she has a lot of potential. I have to probably go back and put some of these other leaders lower. Maybe even some of the military leaders. I will put Maria Theresa for now into the B tier. And since this is now too full, I'll come back and circle back to that. I think Cook definitely belongs in D tier then, just because we have to put some leaders into the D tier. That's how these lists have to work. We could always say, okay, all of these leaders are great, only S and A tiers, they all have potential. James Cook can be insane if you have 10 colonies, but it doesn't happen that often. I don't like colony plays as much as some others. And then even if you go for Cook, if you go for Suez Canal and Cook and having a lot of you have a lot of colonies, even then he doesn't produce more culture than something like someone like Bach or Shakespeare. So even if you have the top condition for him, and he only produces culture, that's the thing. I mean, yeah, colonization, but that's only not as good. So he basically only gives you culture, and there are leaders who do that a lot better. And then Watt as well, as think especially in 2 players, Watt is most of the time just too late. You want to go for iron, and then you don't want to go for coal. And then yeah, if you skip iron and you skip irrigation and you find the time to go for Watt, and you find the 1 copy, That is the big thing for What in 2 players. There's only 1 copy of Coal, 1 copy of Selective Breeding. If you go for What and find both, they can be quite good, of course, but not so much. Not so much in 2 players, because there's only 1 copy of each of those really important cards for him. I think Robespierre can stay in C tier. He's just this one-off thing, but he can be solid, especially because I've started to play less with Monarchy, and then Robespierre is better because he's can give you this H2 government forms. And sometimes you can even make him work and give you H3 government form as well. So I think I'll have to put someone down into C tier. This is just too much in B. That is, I have to decide here. And I think I would actually put Napoleon lower. He's just not fitting for the playstyle anymore. I could also put Catherine. I think they are pretty equal. So could go as far as to put these both lower. So they went from A tier to C tier. I think Nobel is just still very, very solid because of the 2 science production. That is still a lot. And no science hasn't completely disappeared. But it's just not as prominent anymore. But he still is very solid. So yeah, putting all of these 2 down. Nobel was an S before. I think B tier is good for him. So I think these are the leaders as I would put them. Quite a lot of changes here in H2. I think H2 definitely has changed the most since I made these lists. The meta has changed a lot. Players have changed their approach. So this is reflected in the current tier list. Let me know what you think. But of course, you're also going to go through the wonders here. But wonders are always, I think wonders are even harder to rate, because they depend even more on your situation, what you need at the moment. Ocean Liner early on is still the best thing you can get. But they're also, yeah, I mean, it's hard to say how much population has changed. I think more and more people find other solutions for the population. So I think I would still put Ocean Liner as the best wonder. Howard College definitely has to move up some spaces. I think Howard College has a lot of potential with the 3 science. Just if you have a lot of rocks, if you have a lot of rock production and not that much science, you want the Howard College. So I would put that probably a little bit higher. Maybe some of the culture wonders should go lower. Louvre maybe even has to go lower. We have the meta where the leaders are there for culture. That is what I see the most. Leaders produce the culture, and the wonders not as much. So these 3 culture wonders that we really have, not as good anymore. So I would put Louvre a little bit lower. I think statue is still quite good, but I could see the Eiffel Tower 1 lower. Maybe the Kremlin even 1 higher. Howard College, I mean, who goes into D tier? That's the big question for the wonders. I could also see myself putting the railroad into B tier. Suez Canal is also, I think Suez Canal is solid. I think Suez Canal is a solid A, but I would maybe go and put the railroad into B tier. Yeah, and the rest, I mean, Howard College, I want to put that higher. I think I could even see myself doing the Louvre and Eiffel Tower on D tier. It looks kind of harsh. And the statue on C tier, something like this. You see me struggling for these, but that's always the case. The big question is, how do you rate the difference between C and B tier? It depends on each game. I always look for the opening where the wonders are good. I think the culture wonders have to go lower. They were sitting in B tier, blocking the other wonders. I think Harvard College with the science and the Kremlin with the civil and military actions, especially if you solve the happy face, is a very solid wonder. So yeah, this is how I will leave them. Let me know. I think, especially as we go higher on the ages, people are gonna disagree more and more. It's gonna be harder to rate these, as it is always the case. But let me know, guys, what you think, where you would put these leaders and wonders. if I made some big mistakes. I think last time some people were pointing out Shakespeare. I think that has been the biggest move. Shakespeare from D into A tier. Nobel, Catherine, and Napoleon from S and A tier to B and C tier, so going 2 lower. I think those are the biggest changes, and that is reflected because, yeah, as I said before, I think H2 has seen the biggest changes in the last year and a half. With it shifting from as much military to more culture plays. So yeah, that is the list for you guys. Let me know what you think, and yeah, hope you enjoyed this video, and see you for the next stage, the last H3, in the next week. Bye guys.